Hello, my name is Janet, and I have been recently diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I will be referring to some of my typed notes to discuss my diagnosis. Um, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 7 months ago. I believe that I experienced my first symptoms of multiple sclerosis back in 2009. Um, I had a weird sensation with my legs that just came over me, and I would only feel that weird sensation in my legs when I walked. Um, the best way that I can describe that sensation is when you get a new pair of glasses and you're not used to looking through the lenses, and you look down at the ground with those new glasses on, and the ground looks funny. It makes it through the new glasses, you feel like you don't want to make a misstep or whatsoever by looking down because you're not used to looking in through those glasses yet. Well, that's how my legs felt, like I was going to misstep. It was weird, and that went on for about a week. And yeah, about a week. I went to see my general practitioner at the time, and um, couldn't find anything wrong with my legs when he tested my reflex um, in my legs and my knees. It was normal, but it was just a weird sensation. I just felt like I was going to misstep at as I walked, or it was just uncomfortable to walk, and your legs feel like you're having to be careful when you walk so you won't step off um, the wrong way. So that was about in 2009 when I first experienced that sensation. And um, the end of April of this year, I was sitting at my desk working. And as I was typing, my left side of my body and my left hand, these last two fingers here, um, became paralyzed um, as I was typing. And every time I got that weird sensation in these fingers, my whole left side of my body would feel like I was having some shortage going on, electrical shortage. It didn't feel electrical, like sharp or anything. It's just that I felt like my body was shorting out, um, or feeling disconnected from my left side of my body. And that sensation would only last for under a minute. Every time it would come and go, it would only last for under a minute. And I experienced some slurred speech as well. My left side felt really weak. Um, Not well, I say really weak. It just didn't feel like it was attached to me whenever that feeling would come across me. My legs felt weak. My left leg felt weak, especially when I laid down. The weak feeling would come over my left leg. I've made a doctor's appointment about a week later because after doing my own research and trying to see initially if that weird sensation would just go away on its own, I made an appointment with my GP because I kind of felt that I had multiple sclerosis by doing my own research. And doing that research, it all of my symptoms led to multiple sclerosis. Even though it could have been a mini stroke in my gut, I just didn't feel like it was a stroke that was trying to occur. Even though I should have went to my GP or the ER immediately with the symptoms that I was feeling, because I could have been having a mini stroke. But my gut feeling and in my research, I felt like it was multiple sclerosis. So that was May 13 when I finally went to my GP, and she sent me immediately then to the ER. I have a female GP now. She sent me to the ER to be checked to make sure I wasn't having a stroke or had many strokes and something could be waiting to occur bigger. I had a CT scan done, which came back all clear. And I talked to the ER doctor about my symptoms and asked him if he thought that it could be multiple sclerosis. And he agreed that my symptoms sound like multiple sclerosis, but then they also sounded like Lyme disease. So I then, the following day, asked my GP to refer me to radiology to have an MRI of the brain to look for signs of multiple sclerosis. And she did refer me. On May 14th, I had an MRI done, and she ordered the results to come back stat. On May 15th, I learned that I had no sign of a tumor, no sign of stroke, but I had history of demyelinating disease on the brain. Now, demyelinating disease is damage to the protective covering that surrounds nerve fibers on the brain. And in my previous research, I had already known, I knew what demyelinating disease was. I know it was in relation to multiple sclerosis. And then my MRI had also mentioned Dawson fingers that was visible on my scans. And I, by researching, already knew Dawson fingers was also another clue to multiple sclerosis. So my GP then referred me to a neurologist, and on May 26th, I saw my neurologist for the first time. And after he looked at my MRI scan, he asked me had I recently went through some trauma, a stressful time of trauma, or just had I been through something that was very stressful. And I told him that I had lost my father in February of this year. And that was the most stressful, heartache, longest week of my life. That week, I don't even remember that whole week. But it was the longest week of my life, and it was very stressful. And he looked over my MRI with me and my husband and said 99.9% he's sure that it is multiple sclerosis, but he would have to do further testing to rule out Lyme disease. But that if I hadn't been visiting up north recently at that time, that it 9 times out of 10 wasn't Lyme disease, because Lyme disease is normally, I guess, you would get it if you lived up north or traveled up north and, I don't know, been out in the woods to contract Lyme disease. So I ended up signing paperwork that day because he asked me if I wanted to be a part of a case study for multiple sclerosis and to try a new medication. And I agreed to become a part of a case study on May 26th of this year. And once I signed that paperwork, I was poked, prodded. Oh my gosh. that was stressful in itself. I had blood work done, urine tests done, chest x-rays done, EKG done. Um, and that was all on May 26th. On June 2nd, I had to have another MRI of the cervical spine done. And thankfully, that MRI came back um, showing that I had no lesions on my cervical spine. So that was a blessing. Um, on June 8th, I had a pulmonary function test done to set a baseline for my lung strength, my breathing. I had to go into the hospital to have that done, and my breathing was good, and the baseline was set. So I just pray that I maintain that baseline and I don't, my function doesn't drop. So good. So far, everything is good as of this day. On June 8th, I met with my neurologist to discuss my previous test results of my chest x-rays, which were good. My blood work came back good. And that's when I also learned about my MRI of the cervical spine, which was done on a totally different type of MRI machine. This machine is used specifically for case study patients. So, and those results, like I said, came back good. I had no lesions on my cervical spine. And let's see, on June 11th, I checked into the hospital to have my lumbar puncture procedure done, which is a spinal tap. And oh, I don't want to ever have to do a spinal tap again. I don't know if it was just the fact that they were putting a needle through my spine or if it actually hurt. I think a bit of both. It was just nerve-wracking. Nervous that they would stick something the wrong way, and I don't know, the idea if they stuck me wrong and being paralyzed. I don't know. It was just, I'm thankful that I don't have to do another spinal tap. On June 15th, I had several appointments. I had 3 appointments. I met with a it was a regular ophthalmologist that I met with, and my eyes were good. I had another MRI of the brain, and that MRI, the results came back showing that I had 2 lesions, one active lesion, and the other lesion wasn't active. I also had a skin exam done with a dermatologist to set baseline for my skin because of the medication that I was put on could cause a skin reaction. So the dermatologist wanted to be able to see my skin, set a baseline to determine if I had any other rashes or something going on with my skin at the time, and therefore he'll know the difference, or you will know the difference if the medication caused a different type of skin reaction. So on June 18th, I went back to my neurologist, and he went over my labs with me, my lumbar puncture results, and on June 18th, it was 100% confirmed that I have multiple sclerosis and no Lyme disease. So on June 18th is when I started the new medication Gilenya. and I had to stay at the hospital for 6 hours once I started that medication, because that medication can make your heart rate drop really low and or drop dangerously low. So I had to be monitored for 6 hours before I can leave. And I did well. I didn't have any reactions to the medication. On September 17th of this year, I had a follow-up appointment. I had to see a new eye doctor, which was, he is a neuro-ophthalmologist, and he looked into my eyes. I have 20/20 vision, and I don't have any lesions on my optic nerve or nerves, and my blood work that was done at my previous June appointment. My neurologist, when I went to that appointment as well, he went over that with me, and that blood work was good. And I received a 3-month supply at that appointment of Gilenia. And let's see, by the time I went back in September, I was in the clear for if the medication was going to cause me any skin reactions. They said that those skin reactions would have taken place within the 3-month time frame of taking the medication. Also, that medicine, Gilenia, could also cause you to have macular edema, I believe is what it is. And I had no signs of that either, so I was out of the clear for if the medication was going to cause me to have macular edema, they would have seen signs of that. So I'm past that 3-month marker as well. Now, on October of this year, I had to go to my neurologist, an emergency appointment, because I woke up that morning with sharp head pains and sharp eye pain in my right eye, and like the stabbing pain in my head. Excuse me. Very uncomfortable. But after going to the neurologist, he discovered basically I was doing a lot of clenching, which was causing the pain, because he said there's a nerve that runs up behind the eye in the head, something like that, however it is. I hadn't had that issue no more after that, and I do wear a dental guard to help with the clenching. But on that day, I thought I was getting ready to experience some optic neuritis, and it was coming up into the weekend, because this was on a Friday, and I needed to know, what do I do if I lose my eyesight? Thankfully, that wasn't the issue. And so that was October of this year. My most recent appointment, well, I'm going to end this particular video now and come back with a different video that I have already pre-recorded, to discuss my December 10th appointment, to give you an update. So stay tuned.